Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be having a look at fuel consumption and how that cost pertains to vehicles. So, up to this point, like I said, we just had a look at our driver's license. Now, we're going to be interested in the cost of fuel. And so, a key part of operating any vehicle is the cost of gasoline. As a general rule, the smaller the vehicle, the better kilometers per liter of gasoline. In the United States, fuel efficiency of a vehicle is measured in something called MPG, miles per gallon. In Canada, the fuel, and most of the rest of the world, fuel efficiency is measured in liters per 100 kilometers. And so when using liters per 100 kilometers, the lower the number, the better the fuel efficiency. So for this table, we're going to make an assumption and say that gasoline costs 159 cents a liter, but we don't typically talk about cents in our calculations, and so we're going to say it's $1.59 a liter. Okay, so note that if I wanted to convert from 159 cents, I just take this 159 and I can just divide it by 100, and that gives me this value here in dollars. So there you go. Okay. So what are we doing here? Well, we're going to compare the cost of driving 500 kilometers for the following types of vehicle. So I've got a Toyota Prius here, whose fuel consumption, and this is a hybrid electric and gasoline vehicle, whose consumption is 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers. We have the Ford F-150, four-wheel drive, long box, eight-cylinder engine, which is 15.7 liters per 100 kilometers. And we've got the Hummer. The Hummer is 18 liters per 100 kilometers. Okay, so typically, again, the smaller the vehicle, the lower the fuel consumption. The larger the vehicle, the larger the fuel consumption. And again, you get vehicles for different reasons, and I leave those reasons up to you. And so we're going to compare the cost of these. So we're going to see how far we can go 500 kilometers. So the goal for this is we want to see how much fuel we use for 500 kilometers and then multiply it by the fuel price, which we said was, I think it was $1.59, right? Is that what it says up here? Yeah. Okay. So first thing we do is we take our 4.3 and we're going to convert it into, so instead of being 4.3 liters for 100 kilometers, I want to get the unit rate. So this is going to be 4.3, and we're going to invoke our friend, the division sign, 100, and this is going to be 0.043. So again, if we take our 4.3 divided by 100, that's going to be 0.043, and this is going to be liters, and this is only now for 1 kilometer. And so the next thing we do now is we go get the fuel needed for the distance. And so in this case, we care about 500, right? So it's going to be 0.043 liters multiplied by 500. And if this could have been the case if this was 140 liters or 700 liters, whatever the case may be, in this case for us, we're going to call it 500. And so in our calculators, if we take 0.043, multiply it by 500, that's going to give us 21.5 liters. So altogether now, we need 21.5 liters for this 500 kilometers. And I go out of my way here just to include all of my units because we have a lot of different numbers and we're converting between liters, kilometers, and dollars. So I want to be very clear on what I'm using. Okay. So first thing we did was get the unit rate. So that was 0.043 liters for 1 kilometer. The fuel needed for the distance is going to be that 0.043 times 500. That 500 comes from up here. Okay. And so that's going to be 21.5 liters. Now, that's how much we need altogether. And I'm just stating that it's for the 500 kilometers. And the total cost, what's this going to be? Well, it's going to be our 21.5 liters multiplied by the 159 that we had from the start. And so if we take our 21.5, multiply it by 159, we'll round this off the 2 decimal places because we're talking about money. So this is going to be $34.19. So you need $34.18 worth of fuel to go 500 kilometers in the Toyota Prius. Okay, and all of the calculations we're going to be looking at will be slight variations of these. And so, what does this mean? Well, if you have a look at the Ford F-150 here, the consumption on gas, the difference between 4 and 15 is it's about 3 to 4 times as much because 4 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. So this is like about 3 times as much or so. So you would expect that the cost of fuel will also be about that. But for now, we're going to follow the same steps that we did from before. So I'll just copy and paste this in down here. We want to get the unit rate, the fuel needed for our distance, and the total cost. So what do we do here? Well, the unit rate for us is going to be this 15.7 division sign 100, and that's going to be 0.157. So again, on my calculator here, if I take 15.7 divided by 100, I'm going to get this 0.157. And remember, this is how many liters we need for 1 kilometer. So the fuel needed for the distance, well, the distance we care about is 500 kilometers. And so we're going to take our 0.157 liters and multiply it by 500. And so if we do this, 0.157 multiplied by 500 is going to give us 78.5 liters. And we're saying, again, that this truck needs 78.5 liters for this 500 kilometers. You don't need to write all of this out. Like you could just write out the 78.5. But again, I just want to be very clear about like what we're talking about here because there's lots of different units. And so now I want to take my 78.5 liters that we just got from before and multiply it by the fuel price. So in this example, it happens to be 159. And so we take our 78.5 times it by 1.59, and we're going to get here this 124.81. So this is going to be 82. And so it is. Okay, so again, it ended up being like roughly 3 to 4 times the price, but that was to be expected as we went through this. Okay. Okay, last one here is the Hummer. So the Hummer costs even more liters per kilometer than the truck. So it's going to be the same kind of calculation again. And so again, we take our 3 components. And so the unit rate for us is going to be this 18 liters, or I should say 18 divided by 100. So that's going to be 0.18 liters for 1 kilometer. The fuel needed for the distance, well, we're talking 500 kilometers, so it's going to be 0.18 liters multiplied by 500. And so for us, 0.18 multiplied by 500, that's going to be 90 liters of fuel. So again, this is 90 liters for that 500 kilometers. That's what we're talking about. And so the total cost then is going to be this 90 liters multiplied by the gas price from the start, which we said was this 159 number. And so when we do this, if we take our 90 and multiply it by 1.59, we end up getting a price of $143.10. And so you can see the price of these as they increase over time. The Toyota Prius was 4.3 liters for 100 kilometers. The Ford F-150 was 15.7, and the Hummer was 18. And you can see the corresponding prices of $34, $124, and $143. And now I have 2 questions for us to, actually a few more practice questions for us to try. Question 1A, you are driving to Winnipeg. When you leave Thunder Bay, the gas price is $1.50. So you're going to drive the Hummer. How much will it cost to get there? Well, so we're going to use the same formulas as before. Well, not the same formulas, but the same method as before. Namely, we need the unit rate, the fuel for the distance, and the total cost. The unit rate's actually going to be the same though, since we're taking the Hummer this time. We're going in style, I suppose. And how much fuel do we need for the distance? Well, the distance we care about is now 700 kilometers. And so we're going to take 700 and multiply it by this 0.18 liters, or I should say 0.18 liters multiplied by 700. Okay, because keep in mind it's 700 kilometers, but again, that's okay. So if we take our 0.18 multiplied by 700, we're gonna need 126 liters of fuel altogether, and this is for that 700 kilometers. Remember how we were talking about currency conversions and how our units canceled? And so here, none of our units ended up canceling out. So when we took liters and multiplied by kilometers, we ended up with liters per kilometers. And so there we go. Okay, last thing is we need to figure out the cost. So the cost going to Winnipeg is $1.50. And so this is going to be $1.50, or I should say 126 liters multiplied by our 150 flat this time. And so 126 multiplied by 150 is $189 flat. And that's going to be how much it'll cost if we take the Hummer to Winnipeg. All right. But the thing is when you travel out of Ontario or travel to different price areas, the gas prices will change. So when I leave Thunder Bay, perhaps the gas price is $1.50 per liter, but we have the same kind of scenario, but now we're heading home. And when we head home from Winnipeg, it's still going to be 700 kilometers. That doesn't change. But the price is going to be a bit cheaper. Now it's going to be $1.30 per liter. So how much does it cost going home? Well, same kind of idea. The unit rate is still 0.18 liters per 1 kilometer. We still need 26 kilometers. The only thing that changes is going to be the cost. And so we're going to take our 126 liters and multiply it by this 130, or this $1.30. And so what's this going to be? 126 multiplied by 1.3, and that's going to be $163. Okay, and so here we found out that if we were to compare these two prices, we could see it's like about $26 cheaper coming back from Winnipeg than when we went down to Winnipeg. So we've got that going for us. And if you were interested, the total to drive to Winnipeg and back using the Hummer will be this 189 plus sign this 163.80. And so what do we get? 163.8 plus 189. So this will cost altogether $352.80. Okay, this part wasn't necessary, but the next question is that we're going to be going to drive to Winnipeg again, but we're going to be using the Toyota Prius instead. And so I thought it might be useful for us to compare the price of it. And so for now, let's go ahead and do that. So now we're going to take the Toyota down. So the Toyota we saw here is going to be 4.3 liters. Toyota, I suppose I should put it like this, is going to be 4.3 liters for 100 kilometers. And so we're going to be using the same kind of formulas from before. So I'll just copy and paste it here. So the unit rate for us is going to be what? Well, the Toyota, it's going to be 4.3 liters divided by 100 is going to be 0.043 liters. And we said this was for 1 kilometer. How much fuel do we need for this distance? Well, it'll be 0.043 liters multiplied by 700. Well, so why are we doing 700? Well, because remember, we have the same conditions as before. So what we're saying is that when you're going to Winnipeg, the price is 150, and when we're coming back from Winnipeg, the price is 130. So it's going to be a little bit cheaper for us to come back. And so this fuel cost, how many liters we're going to need, will be the same though. So it'll be 0.043 multiplied by 700, and that's going to be 30.1 liters. So when we go to Winnipeg, so I should be clear, when we say Thunder Bay to Winnipeg, gas is going to be 150. And when we go from Winnipeg to Thunder Bay, gas or fuel will be 130. So we have two different rates here we're going to work with. Okay. So first one, we're going Thunder Bay to Winnipeg. Well, we need 30.1 liters multiplied by our $1.50 from before. So what's this going to be? 30.1 multiplied by 1.5, and that's going to be $45.15. And when we're going from Winnipeg back to Thunder Bay, it's still going to be 30.1 liters multiplied by, in this case, $1.30. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure why it's italicized. There it is. And so if we type this into our calculator, our 30.1 multiplied by 1.3, that's going to be $39. And so the total cost will be equal to this 45.15 plus sign this 39.13. And so when we add these together, 39.13 plus sign 45.15, this is going to be 84.28. And so that's going to be the total cost. And you might be saying, well, how does this compare to the Hummer? Well, the Hummer costs $352, and the Toyota Prius costs $184. So if you were to take 352.8 divided by 84.28, costs about 4 times as much to take the Hummer as the Toyota Prius. So it's might be useful to think about if you have to take a long trip with some friends, and if somebody's got a car to drive, might be a good idea to drive the car. At least if you're only concerned about money. There are, of course, other factors. Okay. 2 small questions to round us out. How much would it cost to use 34.5 liters of gasoline that costs this price? So now we're talking about pretty much just the total cost from before. So these first few questions, we did all of the steps required in order to solve these. But for the questions 3 and 4, and then some of these other questions here to get us started, we actually will do smaller calculations. So let's have a look. So remember, we have 92.4 cents a liter, and this will be the same thing as $0.924 a liter. So remember, fuel is the only thing that uses less than a penny. Well, fuel is one of the things where we use less than a penny of to talk about the price. Okay, so if you look at the gas of wherever you are, gas might be, say, 170.6 or 178.6 or 150.6, wherever you may be, it uses the thousands, so we have less than a penny. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. Okay, so we convert out of cents because we only use dollars for liters, and so we're going to take our 92.4 liters. Oh, not 90. What are we talking about? 34.5 liters, and multiply it by this dollar amount. So the 0.924. So we go ahead and do this. 34.5 multiplied by 0.924. That's going to give us this 3187 number. Since we care about paying with pennies, we'll round this off here. And so we'll call this 88. Just note though, however, we don't round the money calculations early on. We only just round the money calculations at the end. Okay. Lastly but not leastly, oftentimes Canadians will ask the question, all right, I'm going to buy $25 worth of gas. And so the natural thing might be, well, how many liters is that? Well, so we make the observation that 92.4 cents a liter is the same thing as $0.924 a liter. And so if we take our $25 and divide it by this 0.924, this is going to tell us how many liters we can get. And so 25 divided by 0.924, that's going to give us this 27.056 something, something, something. We'll take 3 decimal places because it's fuel, but it's not the end of the world if we miss one. And so we can just divide these. Okay. So again, the way we did this question was we converted the cents into dollars, and we're going to take our cash on hand, or you could say starting amount, and divide it by the price per liter. And those were the steps that we needed to use in order to solve this. Okay, so I think that's, I left some questions for you to try on. I do apologize, like this chart does look very old, but it's actually a pretty good chart in terms of I like how it's laid out. No, just go through the questions as best as you can. Let me know if you have any. And just be aware for this one, there is a difference between driving in the city versus driving on the highway. So go ahead and try those out now, and we'll see how you did.